With their win over the Dallas Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets are not only streaking, streaking through the quad. They're not only streaking, but they've hit the halfway point of their season. I know it doesn't feel like it, especially because the Denver Broncos are still playing, but the Denver Nuggets are halfway through the NBA season at 41 games. And right now, AP, they are 28-13, 6 games back of the Oklahoma City Thunder, tied for the second most amount of wins in the NBA with the Detroit Pistons. They only trail the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Nuggets have the most road wins in the NBA, having won just this back-to-back in New Orleans and Dallas. Of course, doing it again shorthanded without Nikola Jokic, Christian Braun, Jonas Valanciunas, and Cameron Johnson. An incredible effort that the Denver Nuggets continue to put on. And you saw late in that game on a back-to-back where the Nuggets are just low on bodies. They're just like, can we run this out? And I know people hate the prevent offense, but they're like, we need to run it. We're out of talent. We're out of breath. So just an incredible way to end the first half as the Denver Nuggets are now pacing for 56 wins, which is one shy of the 57 win mark that is the best they've ever had in the NBA as a franchise, set by the 23-24 team coming off the title. So just overall, really impressive the last couple days. Again, not much new to say, but just impressive.
Yeah, and I understand there's some recency bias that'll kind of take hold of this conversation, right? Because we are at the halfway mark of the season. I know it hasn't exactly been 50-50, but it's been a tale of two halves essentially for me this season, Jake, right? Starting the year off with Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon rating down from 3 against Golden State, Jamal Murray getting Cam Johnson integrated with this team. And then it's been this last little chunk of games without the big fella. And I think obviously all of Nuggets Nation, I think, is pretty satisfied with how this Denver Nuggets team has played without the big fella out there. But I think we've kind of got two sides of the coin when it comes down to how we break down and analyze this first half of the season for Denver.
Okay, so this is how we're going to do the show and how we're going to break down that first half. Anilo and I are both going to draft, well, not draft per se, but we're both going to pick 3 different lessons we've learned from the first half of the Nuggets season. We're going to go over some from the NBA as large as well, and then get some quick hitters in. But Anilo, I'll let you start. What's the number one thing you've learned about this Denver Nuggets team through 41 games?
I could go a couple of different directions here, and I'll just single in on, I think, the I don't want to say the best player for the Denver Nuggets, because that's always going to be Nikola Jokic, but to me, it's the step and the level up that we've seen from Jamal Murray, right? And we've talked about it on this pod time and time again about what Jamal Murray means to this franchise, what he means to this team in the playoffs. But the level of aggression, ruthless aggression, I guess you could say, that Jamal Murray has played, that chip on his shoulder, that's been my number one overarching takeaway from this first half of the season. And obviously, that's had tremendous trickle-down benefits to this Denver Nuggets team, in particular with Nikola Jokic not currently playing due to his injury. So I think that's been the biggest eyebrow raiser for me of like, not that I didn't expect Jamal Murray to be awesome. I didn't expect for him to be this awesome and this powerful and this much of a leader for this Denver Nuggets team. So I think the evolution of Jamal Murray would be where I'd start this conversation of 3 big things, or just big comments and whatnot that have come from the Denver Nuggets in this first half of the season.
To your point, ESPN yesterday listed him as a lock for the All-Star game.
Ooh.
Bill Simmons this week not only listed him as a lock, but said, I thought about making him a starter for the All-Star game, but said, I really want to see Steph Curry as a starter for the game, which means because there's 3 teams, Jamal might actually start for the world team next to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on that roster, which would be crazy, but probably going to be Luka Doncic. Could be the 3 of them all together, I guess, because Luka's kind of a forward at sometimes. Either way, crazy conversation for Jamal Murray to be in, given what we thought of him coming into this year. To recap, just where we were at and not where I was at particularly, because this has been the Jamal Murray show for quite a while. I have been the Jamal Murray guy for the first minute, and there are some other outlets around town that'll say, oh, yeah, we love Jamal Murray. But those same people were telling you Monte Morris should have been the starting point guard. Jamal Murray should have been coming off the bench as late as like 2019. Not this guy. I always saw it with Jamal. And that's the thing, is I'm not surprised Jamal Murray is this player, because I've seen Jamal Murray be this player. It just happened to be in the playoffs, not in the regular season. And I was always like, okay, whatever. we all care more about the playoffs anyways. But the fact that he's brought this level to the entire regular season, I think is fascinating because it makes me ask the question, is there another level for him to go up even in the playoffs than what we've seen from him so far this regular season? And I credit a lot of Jamal Murray's success not only to him coming in healthy and with a better mindset, which he has talked about this season, but also the Nuggets preparing him for the season in a way where he has better shooters, better spacing, better players around him. There has not been a situation where the Nuggets could play another point guard next to Jamal Murray for quite some time, and it works. Like, they tried it with Russell Westbrook last year. It was a disaster. Jalen Pickett next to Jamal Murray this year has been pretty good. Like, they just won 2 games in a row doing that in New Orleans and Dallas. So I think that the Nuggets setting Jamal Murray up has been better. I think Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray have refined their relationship back to where it was in the 23 playoffs. And we saw it for parts of the 24 season, but really last year. And I think part of this was because they didn't have enough shooting on the floor. They didn't have that like just awesome 2-man game flowing for most of the season. So for a variety of reasons, it's all culminated in Jamal Murray playing the best level that he's ever played at for 40 games in a single stretch. And it's been impressive because he's carried the Denver Nuggets while Nikola Jokic has been out lately. And he's a big reason why the Denver Nuggets for a stretch there were going to be like maybe challenging Oklahoma City in the regular season. They're still alive for it. It's unlikely, but they're still alive for it. And it's because of Jamal Murray.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the question that I've been trying to answer all season with you is like, what has caused this level up from Jamal Murray? I was actually thinking about it, I think in the shower today. I was getting ready to, formulating some thoughts for the show. And I know we're going to talk about Jamal. I think back to how hard he played in that Oklahoma City series. And then I couple that with the quotes that came out, what was it, last week or maybe the week before from Mark Spears from Anscape about MVP, all of it, scoring champion, all of it, all that stuff. You can check it out at denversports.com. I wonder if Jamal, seeing his Canadian brother SGA do what he did last year with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the way that SGA plays the game and the respect that SGA plays with, I wonder if that has something to do, not out of spite or pettiness necessarily from Jamal Murray, but maybe he looked himself in the mirror and said, I think I could be as good, if not better, than SGA. I don't know if these conversations have happened internally with him and people in his circle, but I can't get that memory out of my head of Jamal Murray in that Western Conference playoff matchup last year against Oklahoma City. Now looking how he's picked up on that and developed the momentum heading into this season, I think there is a bit of that competition where Jamal Murray looks around the room and says, okay, this guy's good, that guy's good, this guy's great. I'm as good, if not better, than all of these guys.
I was in Lille, France. I saw Jamal Murray coming off the bench for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I saw a Jamal Murray I've never seen in Denver, and that's not a good thing. Like how broken he looked, how unconfident he looked. This is a guy who was compared to Steve Nash as the best Canadian guard since Steve Nash. He was talked about like Maple Curry. And in 1 year last year, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came in there and said, no, I'm the best Canadian guard since Steve Nash, and made it undeniable. And this year, Jamal Murray's coming back. So I think that's a great point. But I also think him ending the season with as much effort as he did last year, when he started the season and people were like, oh, that contract's an albatross. That contract's bad. Because that was the talk, even on our radio station. Not for me. Again, not for me. Just over. But they were talking about this contract like it was going to sink the Nuggets for years, right? And Jamal flipped that within 1 year this year, just a year later. So hats off to Jamal. Happy he's still a Nugget after all of that. And he's been fantastic. Anilo, give me your number 2. I'm going to roll through your 3 first.
So going from Jamal Murray, I mean, I know we've talked about him and not to be the dead horse, but I just think the continued ascension and progression of Peyton Watson, some in this building would say he's Kevin Durant, the second coming. Joey, I don't believe that is the case though necessarily, but all things being considered and all things being equal, what Peyton Watson has done has been remarkable. And there's a difference between what Peyton Watson has done and what Jamal Murray has done, because I think I agree with you. We always knew and felt that was in Jamal Murray. I'm not sure if I felt that way about Peyton Watson. I love the raw intangibles. I love the skill set, but we hadn't really seen it all kind of come together on the hardwood. And he had a game here early in the year, a game there later on in the season. But for him to put these games together. It's like, when Nolan Arenado was playing for the Rockies or Trevor Story playing for the Rockies, like there was a bunch of buzz around these guys. And then Trevor Story's hitting home runs left and right. Arenado's making diving plays at third base. You start to saw it kind of blossom in real time. And I think that's what we're starting to see from Peyton Watson. And I had a good conversation with some of the fellas in the radio booth yesterday about, I think Peyton Watson has forced the Nuggets' hand to figure out a way to keep this guy on the roster. And we'll talk about that throughout the course of this season, heading into the offseason when they do have some decisions to make. But I just think the overall progression and the cementing of Peyton Watson has been incredible to see. I mean, there's a legitimate argument I think you could make of like, do you put him back on the bench right now with the way that he's playing? Like, do you give him starter minutes because of how good he's been? I never thought, at least this season, we get to this point with Peyton Watson. But here we are.
It's funny because I was the guy last year that was saying I think Peyton Watson might be a better starter for the Nuggets than Christian Brown because of the fit with the lineup. But this year, I'd actually argue that Christian Brown is more Jokic dependent, so he should play with Jokic, and Peyton Watson can go do his own thing off the bench. Which Jokic dependent is not a slight.
Yeah.
Everything the Nuggets do is Jokic dependent. So the fact that you've cemented yourself as a Jokic guy is not a slight to Christian Brown. That's a compliment. The fact that Peyton Watson has found a way to do this without Jokic, I think, is interesting because the Nuggets have had very few of those guys. And Jamal Murray now is proving to be one of those guys, which is really cool. On Peyton, I did this the other day on one of these shows, but give me your wildest intrusive thought from the last week or two of watching Peyton, something maybe that you don't believe, but something that like has crossed your mind. I'll give you mine. Are we a year away from Peyton Watson being an all-star? Because
Dude, I was going to say the exact same thing. I'm like, is Peyton Watson, does he have an all-star game in his future? That was my exact thought.
Yep. Because if he plays, I mean, he was the best player in the Western Conference last week, and he's continued that this week. Like, he has now played for 10 games like an all-star. And I'm not saying, I mean, you have to play for 45 like Jamal Murray is doing like an all-star, not just 10. And that's part of the reason why Jamal Murray was never an all-star. But he is popping right now where he is playing at the level of a top 50 player in the NBA. And I'm not saying he is one because you, again, have to do it consistently, but he is making the Nuggets ask a really interesting question, which was coming into this season, Peyton Watson and the Nuggets were all 1 foot out the door on their relationship. We all knew it. Peyton was very honest about it coming into camp. I'm with you. I don't think you can get rid of the guy. And now we're hitting the trade deadline, and the Nuggets have to find a way to dodge tax because they're going to do it. And it can't involve Peyton Watson, which seemed like it was part of the plan to this point. So it's going to be really interesting what the Denver Nuggets decide to do within the next couple weeks. But I will say, I think Zeke Naji has completely rewritten his career. Yep. And there's a chance that maybe you can get out from under that contract now, which obviously didn't seem like it was plausible at this point a couple weeks ago. Anyway, give me your third.
Yeah, it kind of feeds into the Peyton Watson conversation. And, I could go Spencer Jones here. We can go Jalen Pickett. We can go Zeke Naji in the recent resurgence. But I'll go with the leader of the bunch, and that's David Adelman, a guy that I think I was a little bit more skeptical about than you were. I felt comfortable about them promoting him to the full-time head coach. I just wasn't sure if that was the best option, if it was the safe option, whatever it might be. And you know me and the listeners know this. I'm a huge Michael Malone guy. I was shocked, absolutely shocked, when they fired Michael Malone last season. But those 3 guys I just mentioned, Jalen Pickett, Peyton Watson, Spencer Jones, I'm not sure those guys are having the same impact that they're having currently if Michael Malone were the head coach. I think David Adelman has done a really good job of nurturing and developing and trusting his players. He rewards them for what he sees on the practice court. He rewards them for what he sees in limited sample size on the regular season full game court as well. There is a good little tango going on between David Adelman and his roster of like, hey, I'm the head honcho, I'm the head coach, I make the decisions, but I'm going to recognize the work that you put in. And if you put in that good work, I'm going to reward you for it. So I think David Adelman has done a lot to smooth over maybe some anxiety or questions I had about him as the head coach of the Denver Nuggets.
It was my number one takeaway, so I'll find 3 others. But David Adelman has found a way to make himself the coach of the Denver Nuggets, and there's no disputing it, and there's no going back, and he deserves the contract. He deserves probably a runway here of multiple years because he earned it. He definitely earned it with that Oklahoma City and LA series last year. But still, going into this year, you're like a rookie coach with a team that has title aspirations. How's this going to work? And there were some things within the first few weeks of the season, whether it was in-game management stuff or substitutions or whatever, or lineup stuff, where you're like, I don't know if I really like this. And it's this stretch now that has come while everyone's been hurt and then cemented and doubled with Nikola Jokic hurt, that has told me that David Adelman has reawoken the Denver Nuggets as to what they needed to be culture-wise, which was missing last year. And I'm not a big culture guy. I personally am not a big culture guy, but culture does matter to some extent. And David Adelman has shown us that culture matters this year. So that to me, I'm with you. I think David Adelman being this head coach, and by the way, they have the number one offense in the history of the NBA. And it's no surprise to me because David Adelman became the offensive coordinator and then Nikola Jokic became the best offensive player in the league. So this is an offensive mastermind. And the rest of the staff, Jared Dudley, I think, has done a really good job with this defense. I know the defense has been horrible for a month. He's working with spare parts. It's been okay. Like, it's not been as bad as the stats say. And the fact that the defense was so good when they had everyone whole, I thought was really good. So I'm really liking this coaching staff. And that's something I was going to be unsure about, I thought, until this point or through this point of the season going into it, especially being also a giant Michael Malone guy. It was very funny to watch Michael Malone on the broadcast yesterday, realizing what he missed with Peyton Watson.
Yeah, definitely a bit interesting for sure. And again, to me, it's just confirmation that Denver did make the right decision. Like I said, I was a Michael Malone guy through and through. And like the last time that Michael Malone, when he was the head coach, like two-way players, it was like the Jakar Sampsons and the Axel Tupans of the world that were playing like very early. I think this was when Jokic was barely a starter, if not before he was a starter. Like Spencer Jones would have like 35 minutes played total this season. Let's take the injuries out of it. But like if Michael Malone had it his way and was doing it his way, like that's just kind of where we're at. And now we're looking at Spencer Jones as a legitimate contributor on this team. So 2 thumbs up for David Adelman, man. It seems like the players respect him. His voice is recognized. And I think it's a great thing for Denver.
Yeah, Malone was good with two-way players very early on and then kind of lost it. And they lost Jay Huff and Colin Gillespie because of it. And both those guys are playing huge minutes for NBA teams right now. So that was a mistake. I'm going to give you my top one now that you stole my top one, which is Nikola Jokic got better. And Nikola Jokic is still in his prime. And this is going to be something that we talk about now every year moving forward because he's after 30. Is Jokic declining? And Jokic isn't declining. Jokic has gotten better. And I think the fact that we're still on the uprising of Jokic's career, we're still priming, we're still in the apex, and this looked like it was going to be an apex season, and perhaps it still will be if he's able to come back in the next couple of weeks, which, we're getting positive reports on that. We're looking at Jokic maybe capturing his 4th MVP, having a 30-point triple-double as his season stats, and leading the Denver Nuggets to a deep playoff run. This is seemingly the peak of Nikola Jokic, and it's incredible that we're here, AP.
Did you see my tweet yesterday about Jokic's return?
No, what was that one?
So this was, what's today, Thursday? So this was sleeping Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. I had a dream that Nikola Jokic came back sometime in the Jan 20s. Now, I can't picture the exact date in my hand, but I had a dream of like looking at a box score and like nodding like, oh yeah, Jokic is back. So I'm going to put out my prediction here. I'm giving out Jan 20s as a broad stroke, but if my dream is accurate, it's tough because it would probably come on the road, but January 23rd or January 25th, 23rd against the Bucks in Milwaukee or the 25th on the road against the Memphis Grizzlies. I had a dream that Nikola Jokic was back somewhere in that Jan 20 range. Those are the 2 dates that I'm circling, though. Let's see if it comes to fruition.
I've got January 27th personally, and I've had it since day one. I said Nikola Jokic is going to miss 15 games, and January 27th is the 16th game. It's against the Detroit Pistons. It starts a 4-game homestand, which culminates in the first game against the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think it makes a lot of sense for him to play that game. So we'll see, and that's a positive report. But yeah, Jokic, everything, the star is Jokic, and Jokic continues to just rise in his stardom. So that was my number one.
Shout out Jeff Morton, baby. Shout out Jeff Morton.
We were literally just talking about this before the show. Has my mustache gotten too rowdy?
Yes. My guy, Jeff. Love you, man.
Number 2, because this was an offseason of tumult and so many different things happened this offseason. The offseason worked, and there's no denying it. Like, the offseason was a masterstroke by Ben Tenzer and Jonathan Wallace. Jonas Valanciunas was a hit. Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway. Bruce Brown's had some up and downs, but overall has done what you needed to. Tim Hardaway Jr. has been fantastic. Like, truly should be a 6-man candidate. We talked about it a little bit on Monday's show. I look at what else happened this offseason, which was them shipping out Michael Porter Jr. for, Cam Johnson. And most people right now online are going, I don't know about that. Michael Porter Jr. seemingly is going to get the Nets a couple more first-round picks. I'm happy for Mike, but the Nuggets probably needed to move off that contract. But that moves me into my number 3 thing, which is the Cam Johnson thing is going exactly how I thought it was going to go so far, which is Cam Johnson gets hurt a lot. He really does. If you look at how many games played he does, he does all the time. Like it's not surprising to me that Cam Johnson's going to miss 20 games in this season. Like that happens every year in Cam Johnson's career. So we're having an incomplete evaluation because he got hurt, which is what I expected this year, as well as the fact that the first 10 games or so were going to be very hard for Cam Johnson because it's a different style than everyone else in the NBA. And the last 10 games he played, he looked a lot better because Cam Johnson's a very smart and good player. So the Cam Johnson thing is going exactly how I thought, which is to say it's still a giant question mark. I think we're really going to see Cam Johnson. And again, I was right about all of it to the beginning. So good news to Nuggets fans' ears. I think we're really going to see Cam Johnson once he gets completely healthy and is feeling confident again. So 5, 6, 7 games back from that injury is really going to gel and mesh well with this team and is going to be just the thing that the Denver Nuggets need, which is they need someone who can provide just a little bit of secondary ball creation. We're seeing Peyton Watson do a really good job of it right now and just provide some different type of shooting and shot creation skills to open things up for Jamal Murray and take some pressure off, as well as hit those 3-pointers that Michael Porter Jr. was so good at hitting, right? I would love Cam Johnson to grab a couple more boards as well. I think Cam Johnson, based off what he's been talking about in his podcast, is going to be willing to do that. So that was the biggest offseason move, Cam Johnson. The offseason so far, complete A. There's no disputing it. The coaching staff, the roster, all of it. And the Cam Johnson thing is going how I thought it would. So that's number 2 and 3. And then just on MPJ, because I got to take the victory lap, and this is a quick hitter on the MVP, around the NBA. Through about 30 games of play for both players, this player is averaging 26 points, 4.5 assists, and is grabbing 5.5 rebounds a game while shooting an effective field goal percentage of 58%. Okay. This other player is averaging 25.7 points per game. So just about the same. 7.5 rebounds per game, 2 more a game, 3.3 assists per game, 1 less than the first player. And his effective field goal percentage is 588. So just a tick above. Those 2 players are Kevin Durant and Michael Porter Jr. I am back, baby. And I was so right about it. And you know what? Michael Porter Jr., and this is the funniest part, Anilo, this is the year Nikola Jokic finally gets his all-star starter co-teammate into the game, and it's going to be Jamal Murray. But Michael Porter Jr. is going to be an all-star this year as well. So 2 Nikola Jokic teammates are going to be in the all-star game. And the funniest part is last year on this show, I said, what if Michael Porter Jr. is actually Nikola Jokic's first all-star teammate, and it's happening at the exact same time as Jamal Murray? Any quick hitters from around the league you want to get to?
No, that's a poetic, the way that you kind of lay it out with Michael Porter Jr. I think the one thing that I would throw out there that should make Nuggets fans happy and just comfortable with where they're at is it feels like a little bit of the changing of the guard in the NBA, right? Like Golden State and Stephen Curry, struggling a little bit. Luka and the Lakers have been up and down throughout the course of the season. I mean, you got Detroit atop the Eastern Conference. The Knicks are good, but that's really been a last 2-3 year type of thing. You look at San Antonio, you look at Houston with Kevin Durant, and obviously the moves that they've made alongside Alpi Sengun, and you've got this Nuggets team that has been consistently good, consistently one of the best teams in the Western Conference for essentially 5 years right now. And so I'm looking at a lot of these new teams in the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, and Denver's still right there while like Golden State's maybe fading a little bit. So overall, it's been a fun year in the NBA, but I like where the Denver Nuggets are at. And that's why I still think this team is geared up to go out there and contend for a championship.
Yeah, Spurs arrived a little bit early, but they're running into some issues with their young guards shooting right now, and that's kind of tanked them back to earth. Insane that the Denver Nuggets have the 2 seed in the West, given what's happened to their roster. So impressive. And again, to me, going into the season, that was the best possible outcome, was the Nuggets get the 2 seed and avoid OKC for as long as possible. And by the way, the Spurs get the 3, so the Nuggets don't run into them for quite a while. Hopefully the Spurs drop to the 4, which would be fantastic. Houston started the season out hot. They haven't been as good lately, and it's something I said very early on, AP, is that Fred VanVleet injury was just going to tank them. So I'm kind of with you that the changing of the guard has occurred. It's been interesting to see Philadelphia get, a good player and come back, but that East is a war zone, and I kind of am getting the feeling all of a sudden that Boston's going to come out of the East with a healthy Jason Tatum.
That was my pick. That was my pick before the year.
And your other pick, Luka Doncic MVP, is alive and well, buddy.
Yes.
That's you nailed that. 2 other awards I want to cover quick. Mentioned it, but I'm going to throw it out there. Tim Hardaway Jr. needs to be in the 6th man of the year conversation. And currently I can't find odds for this, but most improved player of the year, Denny Avia is leading that. I did find an odd for this. Jalen Johnson, Keontae George, Michael Porter Jr. plus 35. Peyton Watson is now plus 4,000 for most improved player of the year. If he continues the run he's on the last 10 days moving forward, I wouldn't be surprised to get him seriously into that conversation. The conversation continues on the Mile High Hoops podcast, not Monday because it's a holiday and we're off for MLK Day, which is a great day normally basketball around the NBA, but we'll be back next Thursday for the next edition of the Mile High Hoops show. He's Shapiro. I'm Jake Shapiro. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.